I'd never heard about Fast Times at Ridgemont High until about 15 hours ago when I randomly decided to watch it at 10 p.m. Apparently, though, it's one of the most beloved and accurate teen films from the 1980s. It even has that one famous pool scene with a girl in a bikini, which really surprised me because I've seen this in pop culture forever, and it was really jarring to see it just all of a sudden play out in front of me. You know, the scene is great and everything until you realize that at the time, the actor was only 19. What the fuck, Hollywood? In fact, Ridgemont High is even in the National Film Registry alongside such classics as The Adventures of Robin Hood, The Baked Dick, and Bread. So it's gotta be good, right? There's just a movie called fucking Bread. So I decided to watch it, and man, this is a weird fucking movie. It isn't actually really about anything, and it's more just teenagers doing stuff that every teenager does, like drive cool cars and have sex, which isn't something I dislike. Dazed and Confused follows the exact same format. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. But in Ridgemont High, there's this really awful subplot later on that goes nowhere and it immediately gets resolved, and there's this guy. There's a lot of stuff in this movie that bugged me, but it isn't all gonna be negative. The movie starts off with this opening scene in a mall with We Got the Beat playing over top of it, and I really enjoyed it. And really quick, this mall would be right at home in a vaporwave mix. I mean, seriously, this place is like a mall sauce fan's wet dream. And what I like about this scene is just seeing a large group of people interacting with one another. Obviously, I don't know how accurate this is to the 1980s, but something about seeing a bunch of teenagers hang out at a public place that isn't just reserved for popular kids, I don't know, it's really cool. That sure shit didn't happen at my school. As soon as it was 3 p.m., all the other kids would just fucking... Seriously, where the fuck did all those kids go? I went to a school with over 3,000 kids, and I only saw people outside of school maybe like 3 or 4 times. But anyway, this is a great scene because it conveys an extremely bustling but social and welcoming atmosphere with extremely fitting music over it, and oh my god, this mall is so fucking nice! Speaking of which, the soundtrack in this movie was absolutely amazing. Sometimes though, the music is mixed really loudly and you can't understand what they're saying. What? Hello? I'm sorry, I can't hear you over Waffle Stop by Joe Walsh. But yeah, the music chosen for this movie was great. I don't know if any of the songs were written specifically for the movie, but most of the soundtrack consists of pop songs from around that time period, and it was really refreshing to hear 80s music other than the same 3 songs you hear on the radio. My favorite song off the soundtrack, though, was probably the credits song, which was Goodbye Goodbye by Oingo Boingo. And you know it's an 80s movie because during the credits, it even does that thing where it says what happened to all the characters. This song and this whole credit scene is just so goddamn cheesy and upbeat and painfully 80s, and I love every goddamn second of it. The sex scenes were also pretty interesting too, and not in the dumb monkey brain way, but because they didn't exaggerate sex or make it like super fucking dramatic. Sex scenes in movies are directed and acted and edited to be super hot and passionate with some nice music playing in the background, but here they're awkward and it's really refreshing to see. There's only 2 of them in the movie, and it's fitting that they're both awkward because it's this girl's first and second times having sex, you know? They're not gonna be out there doing fucking judo poses with each other with some nice sexy music in the background. Both also take place in really awful, extremely unromantic places. The first one is in a dugout in a baseball field, then the second one is in a shed, which was also, you know, pretty accurate because most of the time, when you're a teenager, romantic stuff does not happen in a nice candle-lit luxury room in a hotel with some nice music playing in the background. Nah, it happens in some dirty, disgusting place like a fucking school bathroom after school. Does the movie at all explore this or make an interesting point with it? No, not really. I just thought it was refreshing to see a sex scene in a movie that wasn't super fucking dramatic. Then there's this guy, Jeff, who is universally agreed to be the best part of the movie, and honestly, he really is. Everything he does and says is so stupid and funny. Like this part when he says,
Jefferson was saying was, hey, you know, we left this England place because it was bogus. So if we don't get some cool rules ourselves, pronto, we'll just be bogus too.
And then this other part where he orders a fucking pizza in his history class. He also wears these checkered Vans for the whole movie, which was really jarring to see because 40 years after this movie came out, I still see people wearing these exact same shoes every day. Reminds me of this scene in The Breakfast Club, which was only released 3 years after this movie. And it shows all the characters' shoes, you know, whatever. And then it goes to Allison, who's wearing the exact same pair of shoes that I've been wearing for the last 8 years. And by the way, she's the best character in the movie. There's absolutely no contest, and I will smite anyone who says otherwise. This girl has not left my brain ever since I first saw this movie 8 years ago. Her makeover scene, though, is awful. The whole movie is about accepting people for who they are and not judging them and ignoring what your friends say. But then they completely change her appearance and make her the complete opposite of what she is. Like, yeah, I mean, it's nice because it symbolizes her finally getting to open up to people, but I want my goth girl back, goddammit. This, unfortunately, isn't a video about The Breakfast Club. This is about Ridgemont High, and now we're gonna get into all the awful parts of this movie, and there's a lot of them. I don't even know where to start. I have 6 points I want to bring up, but I have so much to say about all of them that I just want to talk about all of them right here and right now. Like, all the characters were just such awful people, except Brad. He was just like kind of there. Like, he wants to break up with his girlfriend because he's a high school senior and wants to be free and live his life, but then she breaks up with him. Then he works these shitty restaurant jobs. He's just like, again, he's just fucking there. But I will say, his girlfriend goes from this to this. But anyway, he just works shitty jobs, and then one day while he's making a delivery, oh shit, is that Nancy fucking Wilson? Then he quits, and he works at a gas station. I don't fucking know, man, it doesn't matter. But I guess just going off of what I remember, the thing that really bugged me the most was this guy, Damon. He's supposed to be this smooth talker business guy who's all about striking a deal and gets all the ladies, and even though he comes in like 5 seconds during the sex scene, and he's got this weird accent that sometimes sounds like he's from New York, but sometimes it's just like not even there. I don't know what the fuck was going on with that. The problem with Damon isn't just the fact that he dresses like this, but it's the fact that he's a complete dick throughout the entire movie. The most conniving pieces of shit I've seen in media in a long time. So halfway through the movie, his friend Mark brings this girl, Stacy, from his biology class onto a date, and don't worry, we'll get into Mark and Stacy later, they both suck too, but during the date, Mark forgets his wallet and calls up Mike and says, hey, I'm on a date I told you about. Can you stop by my house and pick up my wallet for me and come drop it off? Please, man, it's really urgent. And Damon is all like, oh man, I'm really busy while watching fucking Leave It to Beaver. And then he takes his sweet time getting it, and by the end of it, Mark has ordered all this food to stall for time. I mean, look at all this food. You have to take into account not only how long it must have taken for them to wait on this food, but how much it's gonna end up costing. You're looking at like a $15 bill there, which accounting for inflation will be about this much in modern money. At the end of it, Damon just casually strolls in like nothing happened and says, oh hey, I found your wallet. It gets so much worse from there though. There are literally no redeeming qualities about this guy, which you can immediately tell from this fucking outfit he wore. So later on, this girl from the date, Stacy, sees Damon after school and he decides to walk her home since she doesn't have a ride. And one iced tea leads to another and they end up having sex where Damon comes in 2 seconds and then Stacy gets pregnant. Yep, he not only has sex with this girl his friend is trying to date, but he also gets her pregnant. Which starts this really awful subplot where she tells him, hey, I'm pregnant, but don't worry, I'm gonna get an abortion. It costs $150. Could you cover half the cost and drive me to the clinic? He isn't asking for a lot. $75 back then is about like $230 nowadays, which is like an inconvenient amount of money to have to suddenly cough up. But, I mean, it's the least he can do to take responsibility considering that he got her pregnant. And of course, he doesn't end up fucking doing it. He agrees to do it, but then never shows up or calls her. This man really pulled the getting milk card before his baby was even born. It's like a new record. He could have just told her, hey, I don't have the money now, but I can still drop you off and I'll pay you back in a few days. But instead, he just... It all works out though because Stacy has money saved up from her job and her brother drives her to the clinic, and then he apologizes to Mark and says the exact words of things happen, it's no big deal. I don't even know why the movie has this whole subplot when the whole focus is just to be dumb fun and yeah, 80s. It goes nowhere. And at the end of the movie, Mark still forgives him despite having no reason to do so. Speaking of which, let's talk about Mark and Stacy. They both suck. Mark is just the stereotypical shy wimp. oh, I don't know about kissing you, I'm so awkward. And he's too shy to call Stacy after their date, even though she was obviously into him. Honestly, if she was this into him, she must have either been head over heels in love with him or extremely horny, because Mark has absolutely zero game. He walks up, asks, can I have your number, takes her out on a single date, and doesn't even make a single romantic move the entire time. Stacy sucks too though, literally. She decides that after one awkward first date that Mark doesn't like her without actually asking him or engaging with him, so she goes and sleeps with Damon. I don't even know why they ended up together at the end of the movie, because they don't have any chemistry. They have biology. Mark doesn't do anything noteworthy, and she literally cheats on him, but it all works out fine. At the end of the movie, she pulls a, I don't want to be horny anymore. I want a relationship. And then she tells Mark to call her over the summer, and of fucking course he's all like, oh, I don't know, I'm gonna be traveling. But then she gives him this picture, and for some reason that's enough to change his mind, and then he agrees to call her. And the credits roll with that Oingo Boingo song playing, and oh my fucking god, I love this song. Just a side note, I don't know why this caught me off guard so much, but this picture she gives him really interested me, because even though it's from 40 years ago, she looks like someone who could be alive nowadays. I know it's not like humans have like undergone some dramatic evolutionary change since the 80s, but you know, usually you see pictures of people from the 80s or like your parents from the 80s, and you can immediately tell that's from that time period. But here, she just fucking looks like a girl I could have biology with. That's all I really have to say though. Am I looking way too much into a dumb 80s movie? Yeah, definitely, but it's 3 a.m. and I wanted to put all this down somewhere. And oh yeah, their teacher, by the way, Mr. Hand, is a fucking dick. Shows up to the stoner kid Jeff's house to give him a history lesson, and he says, you've wasted 8 hours of my time this school year. Like, bruh, 8 hours of class time is only equal to like 8 class periods. That's still pretty good attendance for a whole school year. Again, am I looking into this too much? Yeah, but it's 3 a.m. and I had teachers exactly like this guy, and so I want any excuse to make fun of him.
Goodbye, 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 goodbye.